Rob, I was actually kind of wondering if I was going to remember the pattern of the theme song.
I mostly just sit here and wait until you talk.
If it had been so long that I can't remember when the thing starts. Well, welcome to the Common Good Podcast. After a 2-week hiatus, 2.5-week hiatus, I think our last time was talking about the eclipse that was coming. So it was like Thursday, 2 weeks ago. Today's Friday, and it's Friday like April 6th, I think, April 5th. And going to do a little politics today. So Robb Ryerse is here on a Friday politics.
Yep.
Hey,
we got politics to talk about.
I've been on vacation and then doing a little family time, and it's been a nice break from my brain from politics. Tell you the truth. Yeah. I really feel it. I mean, I feel like the 16th or 17th of March, kind of went away from all this stuff, came back, and it's all the same.
That's right. I mean, there's a few things that have changed.
Okay.
Like the things that Donald Trump is selling now are different than they were before.
That's true.
It was NFTs and sneakers before, and now it's Bibles and junk stock. But
Bibles and junk stock. That's good. Is that new material for you, or you borrow that?
Is new. No, that's new material for me.
Pretty good right there.
Yeah. And but other than that, the furniture's been rearranged in the room a little bit, but it's all basically the same.
I mean, dude, it's funny how waxed fruit and not fresh fruit politics feels sometimes. You're just like it has the lasting potential to keep going. Okay, let's talk a little bit about this Trump selling the Bible. That got me on CNN last week, by the way.
Yeah, it did.
So if people are in the news stream, in the YouTube stream, they may be like, oh, I don't know, I had a couple of tap-ins from Common Good about
you've
stuff.
been having a whole moment. I mean, you were on the Chris Hayes podcast, which he then spliced into his show.
Yes.
Then you were on CNN, and then apparently Chris Hayes mentioned you in his appearance on Pod Save America, the biggest, say the second biggest political podcast in the country.
Yeah, they did. I subscribe to that podcast, Pod Save America, but I don't always listen to it.
Right.
But we're starting to receive messages from friends that during that interview, the interviewer Dan, I think, brought it up, said, hey, you had this guy on your podcast like from 2 weeks ago. That was a very nice honor, for the work that we're doing and that we're up to. And it really was confirmation, both the way Chris Hayes responded. So folks, if you haven't listened to the Chris Hayes podcast with where I'm on talking about vote common good and the work we do, it's worth it. If you're at all interested in this, I promise you're going to like that. That's going to be right in your wheelhouse. And it was just a great conversation. And then, a couple weeks ago, Rob, when we were down in Eagle Pass, Texas for the trucker lie that went on for the scam, and went down to have a presence down there, a couple guys were pointing their cameras at our bus at a gas station, and Dan and I just popped out and kicked into mode, like, hey, what you guys doing, pointing cameras at us? We're here ready to talk. And that turned out to be a YouTube channel called Channel 5 News that a friend had mentioned to me previously. And that video that they put out about the trucker brigade, I haven't looked in a week or so, but it had 2 million views, I think, something like that. Something like 2 million views already.
That's fantastic.
A lot, yeah. So,
but you were on CNN talking about the Trump Bible.
Oh, that's right. And talking about the Trump Bible, because it really captured the national attention that Trump is out pitching a Bible. It's just it has all the pieces to it, Rob, all the pieces right there. This huckster pitching a Bible that had a hard time finding its way into the world, by the way. 2021, HarperCollins was hired by the producers of this Bible, which then was called, I think, the USA Bible, or maybe just the Lee Greenwood Bible at the time, but it was Lee Greenwood inspired, from God Bless the USA. May have been the Bless the USA Bible, something, I don't know, some nonsense like this, but all the same material and all the same stuff. So they wanted to use the new international version, and so they have to get that from HarperCollins. And so Zondervan, who manages that, was, and apparently Zondervan, a publisher of Bibles, does this a lot. Like
Yeah,
they get
yeah,
contracts from people and they produce a Bible that might be
yeah,
themed for students or themed
yeah,
for
yeah. The teen study Bible, the men's devotional Bible, yeah, I mean, yeah,
your organization can actually have a Bible
yeah,
with your stuff in it. Like
yeah,
that part's not all.
yeah.
So for all of us who
It's
are
not
bothered
uncommon.
by the fact that people are adding things into the material that comes in the Bible, just so we all know, oh, that's a regular practice and money making
Yes,
line.
yes. Yeah.
These
I
publishers.
used to work many moons ago, worked at Family Christian Store
Oh,
and, in Fayetteville, Arkansas,
really?
and they ran a little special that if the Archaeological Study Bible had come out, which was a big, thick Bible. It's NIV,
Hmm.
and it had, the New International Version, and it had all sorts of archaeological information, pictures, and all sorts of stuff all strewn through the Bible. And we had a little they Family Christian Store sponsored a little contest where, if a sales associate could sell 50 archaeological study Bibles, they would get a leather-bound one with their name on it for
Oh,
free. And
do
I
you
sold
own a
100.
leather bound archaeological study Bible?
I do, and so does a friend of mine because I sold 100 of them.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, quick, just quick
I'm a good salesman, Doug. I'm a
I was
good
gonna
salesman.
say, yeah,
Mhm.
quick for those who may not know, what does it take to get people who have wandered into a family Christian Bible store? What's it called? Family.
Yeah, Family Christian Store. I think they've gone out of business now.
Somebody who wanders into a family Christian store. So, you're fishing in a barrel, clear.
Yeah. Yep.
But what's the thing that gets them to drop probably 69, 79, $89 for a Bible like this?
79. Yeah, it was
79?
79.
Okay.
Mhm.
What what is it that gets them over the hump that you figured out how to do 100 times over? What was your go-to trick? Because I'm just thinking if Vote Common Good has to start selling a common good common good
Common
Bible.
Good Bible. You just put me out on the street corner. It's been 20 years since I did this. I I think it was just the like I really hyped the, "Oh, this is a new thing that's never been done before,"
Hmm,
and kinda
yeah.
go in that route that, you're gonna have something that, nobody else has.
Because
I
frankly,
remember
selling
there was a doctor who came into the store, and he was looking to buy gifts for, colleagues, and I sold him 8
right.
archaeological
Got a
study
little
Bibles.
science, got a little
Yeah.
science-y vibe to
Yeah.
it. Okay, that's genius.
Yeah.
Because as
So
it turns
anyways,
out,
yeah,
people
you
are
can.
more interested in the extras in a Bible.
Yes.
It's like buying the DVD when they used to do this for films and it was the director's cut. You would spend the extra money and you would buy the film because you wanted the
Yep.
extras, right? That's how I've always thought
Yep.
about all this. Um, all right, yeah. So okay, so a lot of people are learning right now that that Bibles are not always just what's called fair use.
Mhm.
People own them and sell them, like companies, for-profit companies, like HarperCollins Publishers owns a number of translations of the Bible. The King James Version, however, is
Mhm.
public
Domain.
material, and
Public
that's
domain.
probably because it's just generally worthless as a translation. I mean, it's just real.
It also could be that it's more than 400 years old.
Yeah, it could be that. Could be that. And they just couldn't find the old King James family line well enough to keep that thing afoot. Yeah, so that is in public domain. So what then happened was after HarperCollins said no to publishing that Bible because they became aware, it moved out of their like department that puts together packaging of Bibles
Mhm.
and a bunch of us, I remember me and Shane Claiborne specifically, were deeply in touch with publishers there personally on the phone, like saying, "You please do not do this. Like this is
Mhm.
full of Christian nationalism." They weren't even really aware of it at that level in the organization. They put a kibosh to it, stopped it. It went away, then was repackaged under the King James translation, and then all the other stuff
Mhm.
is added in, and that's the one that Trump is out pitching. So somehow that thing just fits the all the things we think about Trump and religion and voters and
Oh, it's got it all. It's got, I mean, it's got Trump involved, h hawking this thing. It's got the founding documents of the United States of America, like that is, like we talk about in our Christian nationalism training, that there's many Christian nationalists who believe that there's two countries in the history of the world that are uniquely born out of the mind and heart of God, and that would be Israel and in the United States. And so if you believe that,
Yeah.
it totally makes sense that the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Pledge of Allegiance, all of that would be, not the Pledge of Allegiance, the founding document,
Mhm.
but would be in the in this Bible as appendices. And then it's got the layer of just tacky, and that is like the lyrics to Lee Greenwood's,
Yeah.
from the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee. Yeah, God bless the USA. It's just that 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 tackiness of just like, ugh, the cringe. It moves beyond um, it moves beyond the uh, scholarly or intellectual or
Mhm, mhm.
reasonable to the, like, the cheesy Jesus meme of,
Yeah,
Jesus hugging Trump. It's just ugh.
yeah.
And that layer of Lee Greenwood is, it's like the wallpaper border in the living room of this thing. It's just ugh.
Yeah. Look, okay, so you gave your confession about selling Bibles. I'll give you my God bless the USA confession.
Oh, love it.
You ready? Uh,
You've been learning on the guitar?
s Oh my gosh, I totally okay, so, the th not confession, but you did remind me of something. I had written 2 songs. I now have written a bunch, like a dozen. It's crazy. I'm in a
Yeah.
real flow. But a couple weeks ago, we were on the bus. I was working on a song based on kind of the flow of a song called Alice's Restaurant from the
Mhm.
'60s, and it's kind of this talking narrative thing. So I'm
Yep.
working on something about this around Christian nationalists in America, and what do we do, and what do we do about some line in there's like the election denying something, 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 but they're also Americans, right? And a little line in it has it kind of ticks up at when I say "God bless the USA," and I kind of sing it like the Lee Greenwood song.
Nice.
So I guess technically, yes, I am working on the Lee Greenwood "God bless the USA," but it's in a song of satire. But somewhere, I think it was maybe 1995, 1993, 4, 5. I was a youth pastor. Um, I was at a big church, and I was like an intern or an associate. So I got the duty of taking our a group that was like a music performance group. It was called Acts 29 out on a tour, and we went to the East Coast, and they would do these like presentations at churches, stuff, right? So at one point, we are driving in a bus that I'm driving. I mean, the can't get out of a bus story, just, stuck in a loop. Life is, you should be kicking in for people. I'm driving this bus as a mid-20s-year-old youth pastor. It's the dawn of the day. Sun's
Mhm.
coming up. We're out early, early, early on the 4th of July, driving across the Niagara Bridge by the Niagara Falls. I mean,
Oh.
okay. So somehow I had some kind of a radio playing thing that could play music, and somehow I had it. I can't remember the details how in 1990, mid 90s I would have had this. And I was emotionally struck playing God Bless the USA, driving across that thing. All the pieces came together. It was uh, singing at the top of my voice as a Minnesotan from the lakes of Minnesota.
Mhm.
Anyway, so I get it that song could be really meaningful to people.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of soldiers. In fact, this was one of the pushbacks about Trump selling the Lee Greenwood Bible. people who work in the military, chaplains and others are like, look,
Mhm.
these military cats, they end up over there in places where they don't want to be, doing things that no one should have to do because the United States policy around war is inhumane on all involved. And they are belting this thing out with all they've got, you know.
Yeah.
So I get it. People think this is all really good. No, and the problems are more than just that. You know, as you brought up so articulately there, it's not just that Trump is selling a Bible. Like, who cares, right? It's that he's selling a Christian nationalist Bible.
Yes.
That really
Yeah.
shows the sign, and
Yeah.
trying to compete for that audience. So, yeah,
Yeah,
and he's
and
also
it's not the only thing he's selling, because, so in Donald Trump is in a world of hurt financially because
yeah,
he's had these judgments against him, that are nearly $500 million,
yeah,
um, and he's had some of that reduced a bit, and there's been, he's like he had a $176 million bond that wasn't filed correctly, and I mean all that
Re
stuff that
is that true? I
continues to.
honestly missed
Yeah,
this. They screwed
yeah.
up the
So
paperwork
they
or somehow
they
got it
yeah.
wrong?
So
Oh
it
my god.
yeah the amount he had to post was reduced from the full amount to 176 million.
Oh,
Um, and then there's yes, and then he got somebody to, I don't know, to
okay.
I the guy who put it up said that the collateral was cash, which doesn't make any sense because if he has the cash, just do it yourself. You don't need the guy to post it for you.
Yeah.
Anyways, so yeah, the paperwork wasn't filed correctly. Shocker. And
Wow.
so that is being corrected now, and I'm sure it will be. And
Yeah.
Trump Tower isn't going to be for sale. I love the Spirit Halloween, memes
Mhm,
as as
mhm.
much as the next guy. But so anyway, so in the midst of all of this, Donald Trump needs to come up with a way to make some money. And frankly, this is a clever thing that they came up with, was
Yes,
to take Truth Social, his Twitter ripoff
right.
social media platform, since he pitched to Elon Musk that Elon Musk should buy it from him, and Elon Musk said no. Uh, the second option, the backup option, is to take it public. And so I just read a little bit from Newsweek from an article earlier today just to kind of give us a sense of where we're at with this. Donald Trump's net worth has fallen by just over $2 billion after the value of shares in his Trump Media and Technology Group, which owns his Truth Social website, dropped dramatically over the space of just 8 days. On March 22nd, this media group merged with Digital World Acquisition Company, an existing shell company, clearing the way for it to go public and causing its value to surge, making Trump billions of dollars virtually overnight. It's all on paper with
Yeah.
this guy. However, the shares shed much of this gain when it emerged that the company lost $58.2 million in 2023,
Wow.
while only bringing in revenue of 4.1 million, raising questions about. I mean, it's totally the kind of stock that you'd
$4.1
want.
million dollars is all the revenue they brought in on Truth
Yeah,
Social.
yeah, yeah. With operating expenses of 62.3 million, something along
What?
those lines. So basically it opened at, well, the value of each share reached a high of
Mm,
$71.90, and I believe it is now down in the $46.20
wow.
range.
Still
um
still
you know
higher than I would have thought.
yeah, I
I
mean,
thought we'd be
we
down to
aren't
pennies,
yeah,
maybe
we aren't down
crypto
to.
levels.
Yeah, that's right. We're not down to, like, day trading, penny stock, uh, junk bond kind of stuff yet, but
Wow.
give it time. Give it
Yeah,
time.
that's right. That's right. Give it time. It's just gonna be liquidated out, and
Yeah.
yeah, so
Now, often,
he's money hunting. I get it.
yeah, yes, he is. Yeah, because I mean, and we've seen this over and over again. We saw with the NFTs, and we laughed about those. We saw with the sneakers, and we laughed about those. And then the stock, and then the Bible, and
Wow.
I really, it makes you wonder what he's going to sell next. Do you have any predictions on what Donald Trump sells next?
I was gonna say his soul, but we all know he didn't have one, so, he's dead out of luck there. No, he's gonna sell Mar-a-Lago, probably,
Room by
or a
room.
tower, or a kid.
Yeah.
He might sell a child.
Uh,
You might just have to give Ivanka and Jared fully over to the Saudis for
yeah,
something, you know, some
exactly.
no,
Yeah.
yeah,
He
just so much with the guy.
Yeah.
Um,
So his chances of becoming president of the United States again took a blow this week, took a hit because what many have described as a Trump sympathetic organization, No Labels,
yeah,
has decided that they're not going to run a presidential candidate after all. No Labels is an organization that got founded by Joe Lieberman, former senator from Connecticut, who died last week. And You didn't hear that?
nope,
Yeah, Joe.
I've been out of the flow.
Yeah. Joe Lieberman passed away last week.
Oh,
I think he was 82. Joe Lieberman, who was Al Gore's vice presidential candidate, which in the midst of the hanging Chad
wow.
ballot counting stuff, produced one of the great T-shirts of all time that said "Sore Loserman," and so in the Gore Lieberman font. Come on, that's fantastic. That's just good.
Wonderful.
Like you might be on the
Yeah,
other side of that, but that's clever.
that's clever.
Um,
That's
um,
touche.
yeah. So Joe Lieberman passed away, and
Mm,
then his project, No Labels, which really wanted to bring together. Some kind of unity ticket. And they had tried to get Larry Hogan to run for president. They had tried to get Joe Manchin to run for president. They had tried to get Chris Christie to run for president under their banner. And, Liz Cheney and others have just consistently told them no. And so they have announced now that, they've wasted a lot of time and a lot of money. Um,
yeah,
and aren't gonna have anything to show for it. So No Labels, is going away for the time
is
being.
no labels.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
no category even.
yeah,
Well, that's, to my mind, good to hear. Good to hear.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
simplify this thing down. Doesn't mean that RFK Jr. is going away though,
That's right.
right?
He's not going away. So,
He's gonna find
while
some way to run.
he's going to be well. I'll tell you the way he found. So he named his vice president, his vice presidential nominee, a lawyer named Nicole Shanahan. Um, Yeah, I'll just give you a minute to, roll through your mental Rolodex of her resume. Her Wikipedia is just, I mean,
She an election
she doesn't
denier?
she doesn't even need to have a Wikipedia because we all know so much about her.
Isn't she
Uh,
the election denying,
no,
lawyer?
I don't
Oh,
think she's an election denier.
oh,
Nicole Shanahan, best known for being married to one of the founders of Google. um,
hmm.
Allegedly rumored to have had an affair with Elon Musk.
Oh, that person.
Um, she's the one who was responsible for and bankrolled the Super Bowl commercial touting RFK Jr.'s campaign for president that made his family so mad because it was patterned after a campaign ad from his uncle in the 1960s. Uh, she is the vice presidential candidate, and I mean, longtime Democrat,
Hmm,
who is kind of known for kind of liberal causes. Was a Biden supporter.
mm,
Um, Also, apparently, kind of flirts with the anti-vax thing, which is right on
yeah,
brand for RFK Jr. But she's rich. She's rich,
mhm,
and what he needs is money.
mhm.
He needs money to finance what it
Yeah,
takes to
right.
get on the ballot in all of these states. It's super complicated to be on the ballot to in various states. There's 50 states, and there's I used to joke when I was doing some work with a third party that was trying to get on the ballot. I was doing a project with them, and I used to joke that there's 50 states and there's like 72 different rules on like what it
Wow.
takes to get on the ballot. It
Hmm,
is like it's complicated
hmm.
and it requires money. Like, you have to have a
Yeah, right,
well-financed machine.
right. You have to have
And
employees and everything. Yep,
Nicole Shanahan coming onto the campaign, if she's on the ticket, there's no limit on what she can spend.
that's it.
If she was just a RFK Jr. supporter, um,
Yeah, there it is.
there would be a limit of $6,600 that she could donate to him. Maybe it might even be 3,300 because there's no primary for an independent candidate. So, I mean, but there's limits, and then there's limits on what a super PAC can do that she could give to in an unlimited way. But there's limits on what they can do in terms of
Mhm,
coordinating with the campaign. The best way to get the money into the campaign is to make her vice president.
mhm. Wow. Well, there you go. It's likely how they're gonna do it. I did see a Daily Beast headline that says RFK Jr.'s campaign says that the email they sent referring to the January 6th rioters as, quote, "activists" was a, quote, "error."
Yes. I saw something where it said RFK Jr. disavows its own fundraising email.
It is an error to refer to the rioters as activists because they
Yes.
were rioters. But also, I guess they're saying we didn't mean to say that, but some of the people who write our emails. Now, Rob, if you're on the Vote Common Good email list, you're going to get a
Which
couple
I
of
am.
emails a week from us, and
Yep.
we hope they brighten your day. We hope that in the midst of the milieu of madness, that this little Vote Common Good shining star pops in your inbox, and you say, "Oh, I wonder what we can give money to now to support the good people at Vote Common Good." I read those carefully to make sure they say what we want. If you
Mhm.
want to be president, have somebody m-
Yep.
whose responsibility it is to read the emails and are saying what you mean.
Yep.
Or maybe that's what you did.
Yes.
And the
Yeah.
way you do this is the way Trump said, I disavow the Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. Well, I didn't mean to say stand back. I was just using it's ways of messaging to two
Mhm.
groups, two separate messages. So they can call them
Yes.
activists and then take it back. So when someone says, why'd you call them activists? They say that was a mistake. But to the activists, they say, it wasn't a mistake. So
Yeah.
that's what I think is going on here, which is good news. Good news, I think, for the outcome that I desire, which is that Robert Kennedy Jr. will be the off ramp for people who would otherwise be voting for Trump.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
so
and,
I hope that's what happens.
this comes on the heels of RFK Jr. Um, saying that on CNN that Joe Biden, President Joe Biden, is a greater threat to democracy than Donald Trump. Um, and
Oh boy.
again, and his rationale, his reason for saying that is because some claim that the Biden administration uh, influenced social media platforms to censor, not censor, but to silence, throttle, um, mute, shadow ban, like all the different words that get used in this context, uh, their political opponents, including his supporters. So basically, like there's y- y- listen.
Hmm.
I'm sure that there are people people in the Biden administration who are willing to use some underhanded tactics
Sure.
to that they think will be helpful for their cause, which is, defeating Donald Trump and reelecting Joe Biden. Do is Joe Biden involved in that? There's zero chance the president of the United States, Joe Biden, is personally involved in that.
Right.
He
And
might
and
have some.
RFK Jr. should know that because he's apparently not personally involved in sending the emails that his organization sends. So he would probably understand what goes on when you're at the social media messaging level.
Exactly. Donald Trump personally involved in
Right.
organizing and encouraging an assault on the Capitol of the United States, personally involved in an effort to disenfranchise 84 million
Yeah.
voters, personally involved in trying to get uh, elected officials from fulfilling their oaths of office and doing what they need to do to certify and and kind of rubber stamp the results of a free and fair election. Personally involved in those anti-democratic, democracy undermining things. And for RFK Jr. to try to appeal to Trump supporters with this disingenuous thing
Yeah.
of Joe Biden's a greater threat to democracy than Donald Trump is, I mean, just it's ridiculous on its face and it's offensive.
Yeah.
It's like he's this is like this statement moves RF for me, moves him beyond the like kind of amusing sideshow
Mhm. Mhm.
to like, no, this guy's a problem.
Mhm.
And and yeah, and I have gone from amused by RFK Jr. to super frustrated with him.
Mhm.
And he's running a clown show of a campaign
Right.
and the as you can see from his vice presidential pick, who is someone no one's ever heard of, who is not. Listen, I'm sure Nicole Shanahan is a wonderful. I'm sure I would enjoy having a conversation with her. She is not qualified to be vice
Right.
president of the United States in the same way that I'm not qualified to be vice president of the United States.
Mhm.
If RFK Jr. had called me and said, "Hey, you want to run for vice president?" I probably would have thought about it, but I would have said no.
What kind of money do you think I have, RFK?
Yeah,
I mean, I
exactly.
just
Come
look
on.
rich. I'm
That's
not actually rich.
that's right. So, that ridiculousness, the ridiculousness of
Yeah.
this email that's sent out calling the
Yes.
January 6th, uh, insurrectionists as activists, and saying Joe Biden is, a greater threat to
Yeah.
democracy than Donald Trump. RFK Jr. is going to have to get more outlandish to keep himself in the news
Yeah.
because of the clown show campaign that he's running, and
But
I
look,
I
again,
am
I think that's really
beyond.
good news for the outcome I would like, which is to take
Yes.
10,000, 15,000 Trump supporters across 3 states in the Midwest, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and to have them say, I'm not going to vote for Trump this time. I'm going to vote for
Yeah.
RFK Jr. That would be great. 10, 15, 20,000 people or otherwise would have checked the Trump box. We'll check the RFK box. Great. Good for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think there's a lot of room for him to message to I wish the Biden administration was acting differently or we had a different candidate crowd. I
Yeah.
don't think there's so much attractive there. But I do worry that there's people who voted for Biden in 2020. I know some people personally who are now very intrigued with voting for RFK.
Yeah.
And they would have previously been standard Republican voters, didn't want to vote for Trump ever, then voted for Biden in 2020, didn't vote for Hillary in 2016, voted for Biden in 2020, and now we're looking at RFK. So it could cost Biden some like that. So, that's like,
Yeah.
so you need some of these people to be,
Yeah.
but it's not because they think Biden's a risk to, they're the people in the crowd of, we just need something different, like,
Yes.
um, again, not the thing they say when they're going in for an important surgery. They're not. They're kind of looking for standard practice training. For a lot of
Yes.
these people, they're not looking for something new. you know.
That's Hey, listen, I'd like you to just kind of experiment on me, like, let's just see. Yeah, when I went to the dentist this morning to get my to get stitches removed from a tooth that I had removed um 3 weeks ago. Uh I didn't want him. Like, yes, please just do the normal stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, and I'm an early adopter on things,
that's right.
but like, there's some things you just want the tried
Keep
and
it
true.
steady. Keep it steady.
Now, listen, don't let your heart be troubled, Doug.
Oh,
New polling out.
okay.
Joe Biden has opened up a 10-point lead in Pennsylvania
According
over
to whom?
Donald Trump.
Polls?
Yeah,
I don't
polls.
believe them.
I know, I know,
I am
I
not
know.
an election result denier. I am a
Yeah,
poll result denier. I
yeah.
just got to tell you, these things,
Yeah.
they
Now, what's
are
interesting about this poll, and I'm looking to see who it's by.
I didn't. I was just saying it was just a poll. It doesn't matter
And
to me. It could be
yeah, and
Gold Star or
I'm looking
McClatchy.
right now. I'm looking right now at my number one news source, which is the Drudge Report, and which reminds me, you should check out. There's a podcast out called "Where Is Matt Drudge," which is really good,
Oh,
very
really?
interesting.
Is he
Yeah.
vacationing?
So
Is that what it is? It's
no,
like
he's, like,
a travel
super
log?
reclusive and
Oh,
hasn't been seen in years. Um, so the latest poll, it's Franklin and Marshall College. Now what's
okay.
interesting about this is that in a head-to-head contest between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, Joe Biden has a 10-point lead, 48% to 38%,
Hmm.
um, with an additional
Wow.
13 favoring someone else, outside of the margin of error of 4%. However, when the someone else is named, when the two other options are presented with the respondents, Jill Stein is the Green Party candidate and RFK Jr. is the independent, the race moves within the margin of error with Biden at 42 and Trump at 40, Kennedy at 9 and Stein at 3. Um,
Wow.
which is super interesting. It appears as if, at least in this polling, uh,
Hmm.
Biden's trending in the right direction, which is great. And Stein and Kennedy are still a drag on Biden's support more
On
than
Biden
Trump's.
supports. Well, okay, that counters
That may change.
my
I think
notions.
the more that RFK says in an attempt to appeal to Trump supporters, um, the more he says things like Joe Biden is a greater threat to democracy than Donald Trump, and the more he calls January 6th
Okay.
insurrectionists activists, he's going to turn off that. I think he's going to turn off those supporters. I think it's seen all this to say polls are simply a snapshot of a moment that is often quite blurry at the time,
Yeah,
anyways.
that's right.
And but I like what I see here. This is in this moment, this looks good. Like
Yeah,
things are
I mean, this
trending
is
in the
the
right
problem
direction.
with polling early on is you ask anyone, what will your future behavior be? And for some of
Yeah.
us on certain topics, we're very consistent. For other people, they answer these polls aspirationally.
Mm-hmm.
Their answer fills a different purpose in their life than giving the pollster accurate information. We we all do this
Yeah.
on many issues. What are you going to buy when you go to the grocery store? Well, I make a list, and that's like what I would tell the pollster. I'm going to buy these things. Then you get to the grocery store, and you're like, there's a single sleeve of Oreos that I could buy, just one sleeve. I'm not buying a whole package. All of a sudden,
Wait a minute,
that
that's
gets
an option?
yeah, yeah, that gets pretty interesting,
Yeah.
right? But and then other times you look at something and you're like, I put it on here, but I'm just, you know what, I'm just not getting the high
Yes.
fiber cereal. I'm going for something
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
So
It's
so
it's
what
what
polls
I
are
mean, what
doing is reinforcing a person's narrative of themselves just enough where they call this, margin of error thing. And that's leaving out all the comments of people that like the squirrely prepper lifestyle, says that there are many people who aren't represented in the chat.
yeah.
The squirrely prepper says this, that aren't represented. That's not even taking into account all of that, which is so true. This is just the people who actually say, I'm going to vote. Here's what I'm going to vote. There's just enough for whom saying the thing to the pollster doesn't match what they're going to do. We
Yeah.
tend to call that lying to the pollsters, but people don't lie in our own views.
Yes. Yes.
We don't lie. We are not liars. We might say things that are not true, but they're not lies somehow, right? So that's not the story we tell. That's why I think polls for the movable or the still thinking about it or the non all that engaged. And then when the time comes, so in other words, then when you're standing in a voting booth, you feel the weight, or you're at home with the ballot and you feel the weight. Now you're in the store, you're at the cash register. What are you going to do? And that's the little gap that can be closed. That's why,
Yes.
in my view, that's why polls end up outside the
Yeah.
or voting results end up outside the polling numbers.
Now, I mean, polling numbers are just are just numbers. I mean, there's other numbers that are really good news for Joe Biden, including the jobs numbers today that just took everybody by surprise.
Incredible.
Apparently, the U.S. economy has added another 300,000 jobs over the last month, and continues to um, blow away expectations.
Yep.
You know, one of the things that we've talked about in the past on this show is that consumer confidence,
Hmm.
which which is, how I feel about the economy, um, that's a lagging indicator.
Yeah,
Like,
that's right.
that's the caboose of the economic train. The reality has to change significantly and consistently, long enough for me to go from feeling anxious about the economy to feeling
Hmm.
content to feeling optimistic. I got to make sure that, like, this thing isn't going to bottom out again. It
Hmm.
takes a long time for consumer confidence to rebound, and so even as we get these strong reports, um, that's good. That will only help consumer confidence. And consumer confidence is tied to, how you feel. For better or for worse, people
Hmm.
tie how they feel about the president to how they
Yeah.
feel about the economy. And how they feel about the economy is not how they feel about the stock market, it's how they feel about their own bank account. And and so, as these good economic numbers continue to come in, the economy continues to rebound. I think what we're going to see is
Hmm.
consumer confidence coming back, which is only going to be good for Joe Biden. All of this trending in the right direction.
Yeah, I agree. I think to the degree that uh, people still are movable voters are still making their decision about who to vote for president based on some kind of situation in the world, to the degree that that's true. Because I think there's a lot of consumer confidence numbers, especially, or what's going on globally, internationally with the U.S., around the wars going on in Afghanistan, the war that Israel is inflicting upon Gaza, all these kinds of things. I think that has more to do with reinforcing or undermining people's confidence in the choices that they've already made about who they're going to vote for than it does moving someone. But to the degree that it does, good jobs numbers and inflation coming down, felt inflation coming down, will be the kind of thing that some people can be like, look, let's not go back to COVID days. And if the Biden team doesn't wrap the Trump years with COVID in people's emotional responses, they're missing a real opportunity
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
remind them that from January through January of 2020, we had to live with Trump in charge of that nonsense. And
Yes.
and somehow, Trump is like not is pitched to his people that he's not responsible for anything that happened while he was president because he's the most powerful president in the history of time. Like, it's just simply remarkable,
Yes.
the
Not
ability.
responsible for anything, and also the most powerful and effective president ever. Uh, yeah, I've like the Biden campaign has put out an ad, where, kind of asking the classic question of, "Are you better off?"
Yeah, bless you. You did.
Did I get the mute button fast enough there to
Well
catch my
played.
sneeze?
Well played.
Yeah. So the Biden campaign has put out a commercial. That classic question: "Are you better off than you were
Mhm.
4 years ago?" And they have just said yes. and and
That's
and
great.
and contrasted many things. Um, the thing that they need to be careful about, um, is not outpacing
Yep.
with their own exuberance about stuff, outpacing people's feelings and making them seem out of touch.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge that hopefully someone in the Biden administration, the Biden campaign, is thinking about that kind of
Yep.
stuff.
Yep. We hope that they
Um,
are. We hope
yeah,
that
I
they are.
mean, I mean, two other crazy things that happened, Doug, while we were on this little hiatus and you were out of the loop. Um, Trump's daughter-in-law became the co-chair of the, Republican National Committee, which is just
Why not?
hilarious. No
Why
no
not?
comments needed. And Marjorie Taylor Greene almost took down Speaker Mike Johnson,
Yeah. She still
filed
is. She's still got the hammer just cocked
yeah,
and loaded right there, just
yep,
ready to
yep,
unleash.
yep,
Unbelievable.
she has filed whatever it's called, the where a speaker
To
can,
to
call for
vacate. Yeah.
a vacating of the speakerships. Uh, yeah, she's filed it, and, she wants to, be like Matt Gaetz and take down a speaker.
Well, look, on the what's good for the country route, the reason Marjorie Taylor Greene gives for filing there's 2 steps to vacating a speaker in the current rules in the House. One is you have to file the intent, and then the other is you have to call for a vote. So she's only done one of those so far. She did it just before they went on recess. Then she can call for the vote at any point if she desires. So that's why I'm saying she's got the hammer over the head. And her rationale for doing this is she says that Speaker Mike Johnson has violated the essence of what the conservatives in the House want. If she is accurately reflecting her view based on the actions of Mike Johnson, that's good news for America. If Mike Johnson is behaving in ways that do not fulfill the expectations of the most conservative members of the House, that's good news
Yeah,
because it didn't
which
have
he
to go
has.
that
I
it
mean,
didn't have to go that way. So,
yeah, I mean, there's been the government did not get shut down like
right.
Republicans wanted, and spending bills have been passed, and Mike Johnson has kind of stared down the barrel of his own professed values and said, "Now I got to do what's right for the country."
Yep. Yeah, which should
And
say something to conservatives that their values, when they're put to the test
yep.
of actually being implemented, don't feel the same as when you're just holding them.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's one thing when it's a think tank
Yeah,
event sponsored by the Heritage Foundation, and it's another thing when it is actual people's
it's
lives and
going to happen, yes.
paychecks,
Yes.
and
Yeah,
you're gonna be responsible for it.
yeah, everybody talks the big game. Totally,
Yeah.
totally get it. Hey, you know who things aren't looking good for, and I'm saying this out loud now so we won't be tempted. That's old Ted Cruz, who
Yeah.
apparently has communicated to people in his world, um, that, he has increasingly desperate fundraising numbers and is concerned and nervous that he could lose his Senate seat in
Yeah.
Texas. If
He could
Ted
lose his Senate seat in Texas to, uh, candidate for common good,
Yeah,
Colin
to
Allred.
our running back or linebacker, what was
He was a
Colin Allred?
linebacker. It might have been a
Linebacker?
defensive back, former professional
Maybe
football player.
defensive back, yeah.
Um,
Uh,
and,
I mean,
spoke at a Common Good event in 2018 in Dallas, Texas, and when he was, not yet elected, first time candidate running for
mhm.
office. He's now a congressman. He was a candidate for Common Good in the last cycle, and, yeah, all around great guy, Colin Allred.
And Colin Allred, if he really can put pressure on Ted Cruz to make Ted Cruz nervous that he's gonna lose his seat, if Ted Cruz is vulnerable in Texas
Yep.
right now, after fending off a fairly aggressive attempt at his job in 2018 from then a former congressman in Texas, in Beto O'Rourke. If he can if he's nervous now and he's really in jeopardy, game is over politically for Republicans. Like that is that is devastating if Ted Cruz doesn't have total command and control of being reelected in the state of Texas with what's going on. If there's a
What's your
revolt among Republicans in Texas that won't stick with him and would go with someone like Colin Allred statewide,
Yeah.
phew,
Yeah, I feel like
that
Texas does this every election, though.
that's what I was
They
saying. I wanted to bring
just
it up
they just tease
so we
us.
check our emotions and
They
don't
tease
spend
us.
Too much time in Texas.
And
Yeah.
now listen, what I don't want us to do is to be so, the boy who, the state who cried wolf, um, about Texas and be like, and dismiss it. And then this is the time that the wolf arrives. And, and Colin Allred could have won if we had just, supported him a bit more. But at the same time, I'm just like, really, Texas, we're doing this again?
Uh,
Really?
yeah. I mean,
I don't know which it is.
the four horsemen of disappointment: Texas, Florida, Ohio,
Oh,
North Carolina.
seriously.
I mean, how much time have we spent?
Oh, in those
And
states.
then it's not even close.
Yeah.
They're so yeah. Okay. But if Ted Cruz feels a little bit in trouble,
I like it.
hallelujah. Hallelujah. If they're going to have to dump a bunch of, hey, we didn't even talk about Mitch McConnell stepping away, which happened, I think, about the time I left from
Yeah.
this, from the Senate leadership, at least, let alone out of his seat. Did they
Yep.
settle on who they've rallied around in the Senate then for
No, they
filling that
have
role?
not.
Okay. So, well, if whoever's in charge of that has to then spend a bunch of energy supporting and defending Cruz in Texas,
Yeah.
then that really look. Ted Cruz is a uniquely unlikable person and candidate. It's just true. There's that old joke that I heard a long time ago about Ted Cruz. Where joke is, why do people just instantly hate Ted Cruz? It just saves time. So you're going to get there at some point anyway. Is
Yeah.
sort of the joke.
Yeah.
But he is really unliked, even by people who vote for him. They just find you know what I mean. Like he's just
Mhm.
he's like the car you own because you still have a lease on it and you never did like it, but you signed the lease and it was going to last 4 years and you're just stuck with it and you don't really
Yep.
like it. And if somebody else can drive, you say please, right? That's the relationship a lot of voters in Texas have with Ted Cruz. But he keeps winning, and he did in 2018 handily in a time when everything was going the other direction. So if he's in trouble now, great news.
Yeah,
Great news.
for sure.
Hey, and if you care about what we do, we're going to be in Arizona in middle and end of April. Look, Vocama, good
Mhm.
for that. And then we're going to be bopping around a little bit. We're going to be in Missouri. We're going to be in Colorado. And then by May and June, July, August, we're going to spend a lot of time in the Midwest. So if you're in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, come see us. We'd love
Yep.
to play along on those things. Got anything else, Rob?
I don't.
I like it when we keep our podcast short, 52 to 53 minutes.
Fantastic. We didn't have Dan here today to,
Give
make
the
us go
people
long.
a chance to go listen to something. Hey, I listened to a podcast the other day that I found really fascinating. It's this podcast called Stuff You Should Know. Are you familiar with
Yeah.
this podcast?
Yes.
They have one on greedflation. Greedflation is what it's called, around grocery store pricing
Hmm.
and inflation in the grocery stores. And it is stunning of the food manufacturers, the profits that they have made since COVID, during COVID and since COVID, is what explains the inflation prices in grocery stores. Not supply chain, not costs. The
Yep.
third, there's three things that make that they put the big
Yep.
clumps, like how much is the product, how much is labor, and then how much is revenue that's being profits rather that are being extracted. So those are the three. And the first two, the materials and labor, are relatively steady or down, and the profits are up. That's where it's all coming from. And
Yep.
so that is intriguing to think, should there be some kind of restraints in our
Mm.
capitalism on some parts of our
Mm.
economic system, and would food delivery system be one of those?
Mm.
Just an interesting, and my view, best to get there by best practices from corporations, but if you can't, is there an obligation that the food producers have to make sure that people can afford food?
Interesting.
Yeah, but anyway, if you're into that kind of stuff, Alex, thinking of you on this here, by the way, I think, Alex, if you don't listen to Stuff You Should Know, you will dig that one. It's a nice little, very popular level kind of deep dive. but we just don't want you to fall for those two guys and then start spending time with them and not time with, your other two faves on the political stuff. Is Florida a lost cause, Doug, Rob?
Listen,
I
I
don't think we
think
should use that phrase when we're referring to Florida
yeah,
because
yeah,
technically, yes. But
yeah,
for
you
now, I will say,
yeah,
Alex, for
yeah,
now, I think it's
yeah,
it's not its time.
yeah, it's a tough one, but the things that are Republicans have made really like profound unforced errors on the
Yep.
abortion issue.
Yep.
And with from the whole IVF stuff to, all the way back to overturning Roe, they have made severe missteps
Right on.
in what they have done in terms of the political calculus of it all. And if there's with there being abortion on the ballot in Florida, we have seen that states that have abortion on the ballot, man, things can turn in a hurry. We
Mm-hmm.
saw it in Ohio, we saw it in Kansas, um, and Florida might be one of those states. And so I think we'll see. It'll be very interesting to see on states where abortion is on the ballot what that
Yeah.
does to the rest of people's the way they vote. It's going to be here in Arkansas, and so it's going to be really interesting to see what effect that has.
You know how much I just love using sports analogies for
Yeah, I know.
politics or just for life.
Mhm.
When there's a wild pitcher in baseball, it can be extremely costly if there's people on base. If you're throwing wild pitches past the catcher and there's nobody on base, the that mitigates the damage.
Yeah,
The Republicans are throwing wild pitches. You are absolutely right. It's a disaster. The Democrats don't have anyone on base. The Democratic superstructure in Florida is such a mess. They're not positioned to take advantage of what the Republicans are doing. That's why I think they're really in trouble. Just look at who they put up for governor to run against. Well, the last two times someone's run for governor, look at the people. One of them ended up indicted and then found not guilty on the technicalities, and another one of them was a former Republican, Charlie Crist. Like, it's just wacky, right? What is going on? So that's part of the reason that I think Florida is in trouble, is that the overall system statewide that needs to be positioned to take it back has been just failing for 2 decades. And so it's my
yeah,
take.
yeah.
That's because Ron DeSantis was never that good. He
Right.
just was better than the other team.
Yep.
That's why.
All right.
Um, so if you live in Florida, don't give your money to the Florida Democratic Party for this cycle. Send it to Vote Common Good. We'll use it somewhere else. We'll outsource it somewhere else. Anyway, that's my take. I'm wrong about many of the important things in life. So go ahead and tack that one up to that category. All right, Rob. Talk to you later. Bye, Alex.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
It was quiet. It was quiet on the chat today, but
Yeah.
high on the viewers. So
Yeah.
thanks everybody for watching. We'll be back soon, probably. Okay, bye.